Hello you guys, it's Summer here. And the book that I chose was A Wrinkle in Time by Madeline L'Engle, And what I did for my book report was a sandwich. So it would have been like the front page is the title and the author. The first slice that we will be talking about is the main characters. And the three main characters in this book are Meg Murray, Calvin O'Keefe, and also Charles Wallace Murray, one of Meg's younger brothers. And all three of these main characters end up going on the trip throughout the universe and to the planets that are in the book. Meg is the main character and the protagonist. She has very low self-esteem, but she's very, very smart for she thinks she's not. She's actually smart enough that she can help the one of the other characters, Calvin, finish his work when he is a couple years older than her. And then we have Calvin, who is Meg's friend, who views her as a little sister. And he is actually popular in school, whereas Meg is not. And then the third one is Charles Wallace Murray, who goes on the trip, and he is an oddball. And he's very much like Meg in that respect, where he's an oddball. He's not nearly as smart as Meg, but he's definitely an oddball like her. Our second piece of our sandwich is the setting, and I drew it as the onion. And you could choose really whichever one you want to go to which one. And the settings for this is mainly just the universe, which is the different planets that they go and visit. They're not necessarily the same planets that we know today. The first one is Earth, the second one is Uriel, the third one is the Happy Medium planet, the fourth one is Camazotz. I'm not sure if I'm saying these correctly, but I'm saying them to the best of my ability. And then the last one is Exil, and that's my onion, which is the setting. For my third one, I actually had to do two because the plot is a little bit longer than my lettuce would allow it. So let's start out with this one, which is the exposition. And it's Meg and her family are all trying to sleep, and there's a really big storm that wakes all of them up. So there's 5 people that go, and they all go down to get something to eat at this point. And while they're all down there getting something to eat, a woman knocks on the door because she got lost in the storm, is what they led us to believe at the beginning. The rising action is that the she ends up taking all of the 3 kids, Charles, Wallace, Meg, and Calvin, and she takes them to different planets. And that's not even the climax yet. The climax is actually the reason why they got taken to the different planets. And it's to actually get Mr. Murray out of captivity because he disappeared while he was doing a project he's a scientist. And so they helped him escape. And another part of the climax was when Charles Wallace actually got left behind on one of the planets. He got left behind on the Camazotz, because he was being controlled by a man in a robe, and they call it. The following action is when Meg goes to the next planet, and she has to get nursed back to health by the beast that is on this planet. And then after she gets nursed back to health, she ends up going back to Camazotz because she left her little brother there. And I'm assuming that if her mom's anything like mine, if I were to show up without my little sibling when they were supposed to be with me, I would probably get in quite a bit of trouble. So she went back to go get Charles. And then the resolution is when the kids return home with Mr. Murray, which is Meg and Charles Wallace's father who disappeared. The next piece of my sandwich is the conclusion, and it's the little ham or whichever meat you would use. All of them make it back. Charles Wallace, Calvin, and Meg all make it back, and Mr. Murray. They make it back from their trip around the universe. The kids and Mr. Murray are in good health, but most importantly, Mr. Murray is back after he was held in captivity in another planet for a couple years. The last part is the cheese, and it's my favorite part of the book. Was when Mr. Murray was freed from captivity, and that was even though Charles Wallace was being controlled by it, and that was created by me, Summer Whitted. Ways to use this in the classroom are showing healthy ways to cope. I know it's more of a like counseling classroom, which you would do ways to cope, but you can definitely show the way that Meg was coping in the beginning of the story, where she was getting in fights and stuff, was not healthy, and then show healthy ways to cope. I really enjoyed this whole sandwich thing, and I know that there's other versions of it where they use a pizza and they do different slices, or they do a cake and they do each part of it. I just thought the sandwich was really cool. For me, I had limited supplies here at home, so I chose to do it with paper, but personally, me in the classroom, I would choose to do like cardstock or even like felt and put paper on the felt, because I feel like that would just make it look more like a sandwich, because as of right now it looks like just a couple stacks of piece of paper unless you look at the front or the back. The hook that I would get you to do to read this is why Charles Wallace and Meg Wallace's Meg Wallace, why Mr. Murray disappeared, and how they go through all of these things to get them back. And that's all. Thank you.